in the city. A friendly nod, an overpriced Danish, coffee on my fingers, constant movement. I begin to move. Click, click, click. A series of movements, all sheltered by scaffolding. I notice a particularly skillful pole on woodblock mounting job. No sheer energy snags on exposed screws or loose gravel. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Adaptable babies are now suitable for power jogging. Herds of cellists in horsehair jackets rumble the local ground, their actions covered by a subway stampede, their livelihood strapped to their well-chiropracted backs. A leashed rat. Isn't he a darling? Coos plastic-gloved mommy. I smile and inquire as to Fluffy's breed. Click, click, squish. The addictive stench of 1,001 night glare protected windows propped against scaffolding, still in protective wrap made from 30% post-consumer waste. The smoke blown in my face by a toe-massaging office exile, oof, and a cigarette. No, not just yet, but someday. Sweep, sweep. Toes on grass. I'll walk home. Welcome to another fabulous episode of Culture in Maine. We have a super exciting lineup for you today. We have city councilman, local celebrity, and Lower Susquehanna riverkeeper, Michael Helfrich, and I even got him to bring his guitar. We also have Nigerian singer-songwriter, soulful open mic star, and feature performing wonder who's about to drop a brand new CD, Soji. And we have two fabulous poets, completely different ends of the spectrum. Goth model, Jess Angel, and organic farmer and poetry tree host, which you'll learn more about, Beth Weaver-Kreider. So sit back, relax, and enjoy.
My name is Beth Weaver-Kreider. Here is a poem I wrote called Susquehanna Alchemy. Listen for the way that lead turns to gold. Fragments of mist roll down the ridge above the river, peeling the veil from Pisgah's gray shoulders. Pockets of fog cloak the farms in the folds of the valley. Susquehanna meanders, a twisting ribbon of lead in the dawn. Above, a blue heron plies a patient path through cold currents, on its way to fishing. Wren, sparrow, and finch send threads of brilliance into the bowl of sky. Here, 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 I am here. Their voices spiral upward. A chilly breeze disturbs the fleecy tail of a squirrel who has paused halfway down a gray-brown trunk of oak. The wintry skeletons of maples wear the green auras of early spring. Sun touches the branches, tempers them with silver in the first light. Oh, one day soon you will remember to look, and the fresh nests of birds will be hidden amid the wild riot of green. You turn off the spine of the mountain. You slide from the ridge of Mount Pisgah, winding your way along a streamlet that hastens toward the river's embrace. A stone schoolhouse with boarded windows sits amid a scholarship of dried ivy vines and last fall's nettle stalks. Among the wrinkled hollows and hills, you curve away from the river and back again, and now you turn onto the river road. Birdsong has lost the insistent shrill of dawn. The last mist of morning dissipates before you. The sun slides a glance off the surface of gray water, and sparkles of gold appear. Gold grows on the water, transforming lead. And in a moment, you will avert your eyes from its blinding dazzle. The second poem is one I wrote called The Birth of Phoenix. This is the story of the woman who believed that happiness lay in the sound of anything at all slipping through her open doorway, who grew beyond bounds, whose walls dissolved in a gray mist to let in a garden, a star, and a small silvery snake, who discovered the spiraling staircase which led to the ant in the attic, who plied that old woman with indecent questions and robed herself warmly in old woman's laughter, who carried the rage of the crone in her pocket like a sculpted soapstone jackal, who suckled that fury, that ravenous infant, who knew a canary from plaster pretenders, who built her own cottage of clay, thatch, and brambles, who walked through the market, unveiled by the eyebrows of merchants and gabblers, who swam to deep waters, alone like a manta, who left the green waves for a road full of daughters, who shaved off her hair to step naked and newborn among glowing embers. And this poem is called Song for a Change of Heart. It's a glosa, which is a poem where you take 4 lines of poetry, you steal 4 lines from a poem you love, and then you use them in your own poem. So first of all, I'll speak the words of Joy Harjo's poem, and then I'll go into my own, and you can listen for the sounds of her poem coming through. If these words can do anything, I say, bless this house with stars. Transfix us with love. From Joy Harjo's The Creation Story. Let love be born in us and born in us. Let the stars fall on us and into us. Let us be the memory of their light, the story of the stars remembering themselves, so that we will remember our own beginning, that we may always hear them sing, that we may shine their signs among us, a web of story drawn between us. Let it be in the hope they bring, if these words can do anything, if they can shelter, if we can find our winding way through the crooked paths toward the truth, to find some meaning in the signs that bind us to each other, to read it in some oracle, to scry, to douse, to hear it in the songs of stars, in the echo in our hearts, to pronounce the benediction in whispers, in shouts. I say, bless this house, this farm, this town. Bless this whole chaotic, messy world. All these proud, these tragic, these hopeful, shameful, wounded, healing hearts. This landscape scarred by wars, ravaged by avarice. Rain healing down. Fill hearts and lakes and jars with stars. Stars falling and shining, giving birth to the world again and again, to wash the world clean, to crack open our hearts, release the dove, to carry the seeds of a new beginning. Oh, transform our hearts from within, from outside, below, and above. Transfix us with love.
The photographs on the background today. are not only gorgeous, but they're part of a really cool project that when my friend, poet and Versify blogger, Stacia Flegel with the York Daily Record, decided to do a story on it, I said, I gotta find out the woman behind it. Turns out the woman behind the Poetry Tree, which celebrated National Poetry Month, was Beth Weaver-Kreider, who is the official poet of Goldfinch Farm. So I brought her on the show today to tell us a little bit about what exactly it is behind a tree covered with poetry, and of course, to share her beautiful work with us. Thank you for joining us, Beth.
Thanks. It's good to be here.
Okay. So, Poetry Month, the month of April. We've talked on the show before that a lot of people did the traditional poetry challenge, which is writing a poem every day for the month of April. But you took it to a whole nother level. Tell our viewers exactly what that was.
Well, it was almost a cop-out because I had friends writing on Facebook April 1st saying, oh, I'm starting this National Poetry Month, 1 poem a day. So it was spur of the moment. I thought, well, I've got a tree out there. I've heard of people doing a poet tree. So I just took a few poems out and put a sign up and said, this is my poet tree. And I started putting up pictures and people started talking about it and it was exciting. It's way out not way out in the country, but it's kind of out in the country. So it doesn't get a lot of looks.
You can see how it evolves over the month. Now, you started off with just a few poems, but people started contributing. And how did the tree grow?
I took mostly responsibility for it because I didn't know how many other people would contribute. So that became fun when I'd come home from somewhere and there'd be a new poem on the tree, or friends would start to put some up. I ended up putting most of the poems that were up on the tree. They weren't all mine. Ones friends had written for National Poetry Month and so on. Right. But yeah, it kind of grew like that. Partway through the month, I got sick and tired of redoing them every time it rained.
Yep. And all of a sudden, now it starts to be some plastic in the poetry tree.
There's plastic everywhere. Yeah. So I started putting them in plastic, and that really was wonderful because I wanted them to have that aged look of being outside, but they were being torn apart. But yeah, people would come. A couple of our farm crew. We have an organic farm, and it's just ramping up for the season, and so some of our farm crew would read the poems. One of the women brought a poem, was very careful because she wanted to handwrite it, and it was one that was really special to her about native corn growing. It was really, really wonderful.
Everybody finds their inspiration from different places.
Yeah, it was great. And some people would send me poems on email and say, please put this on your tree. And so I felt like I told people I was the laundress of my poetry because I was putting out these sheets.
So when you're writing in general, where do you tend to get your inspiration from?
I think it tends to be the natural world. I mean, I think that's a poetic cliche, but I think that's pretty true for me. I listen to the birds, and I watch the colors of the seasons change on the farm, and I try to notice. I think in this past year, I've sort of taken up noticing as a spiritual practice. People ask, what's your spirituality? Well, it's noticing, it's paying attention, trying to anyway, see what I see around me.
I mean, one of my favorite things, the way that you first came to my attention was, most people, they write on Facebook things they're complaining about, things that this person super irritated me in traffic. You'll just randomly post a list of things you're grateful for. Mm-hmm. I mean, this spiritual practice will just, it's so inspirational to read because it does make you think, you know what, for every 5 annoying things that happened today, there really were 20 things, 100 things that went right. You know what, that traffic light actually worked. It turned green. I went through it. You don't stop and think about, I should really be grateful that traffic light didn't work. But if that traffic light wasn't working, I would have Facebook statused about how irritated I was that I had to wait for the flagger and all that. So there really is something to be said for the mindfulness of, and that practice of mindfulness, of just recognizing the good things around you. Mm-hmm. Would you say that that's one of the goals of what you write? Mm-hmm. Or do you tend to write more for yourself or for others? What are you trying to accomplish and get across?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I write for myself. And, for so many years, in my young adult years, I guess that means I'm not a young adult anymore. In my young adult years, I saw myself as, sort of wanting to eventually get published, wanting eventually to to be heard, to say something to the world. And somehow in these recent months, it's become more of an internal process. But then it's been recursive and gone outward again, especially through the social media stuff, through Facebook and through this blog. And now I am going to publish a book.
Yes. Tell us about the book. Tell us about the book.
It's called The Song of the Toad and the Mockingbird. And I'm self-publishing it, and it should be out in the next couple weeks.
That is so cool. So people definitely, and that's going to be up on the website and everything, so everybody can go and find all the information about that. Where did the title come from?
The toad just kept coming back into my poems. And I took a poetry workshop with John Terlazzo this winter.
Excellent.
He was excellent. And I'm not writing every day, but I've been sort of trying to pick that up as discipline a little bit, to do some writing every day. And every time I'd sit down, somehow I'd do these free association things, and the toad would appear. And the Mockingbird is my muse for my Mockingbird Chronicles. When I decided to really insert myself into the writing process again, I said, I can't go with the old editor, because I'd gotten myself into this straitjacket bind where I couldn't write anymore because the editor was happening every time I'd start to write a word. And one day I was out in the fields picking asparagus or broccoli or something, and I'm listening to the Mockingbird just go on, and I thought, that's my editor. The Mockingbird says, say it again. Say it again. Say it in Spanish. Say it in French. Say it 3 more times. Say it emphatically. And so the Mockingbird is kind of my poetic muse right now.
Wow. So what made you decide that you were going to self-publish? Because that in poetry is, it's really something that people struggle with. Do I want to deal with an editor and go through that process and maybe have the book get more of an audience, but maybe not be exactly what my vision is? Do I want to self-publish? Is that going to have the same weight as a published book through a publishing house? You know, do I want to do a book? Do I want to put my poetry in pages and have it be unchangeable now? You know, it's a real spiritual exercise to decide to create a book. Why now? And why this book? Why this group of poems? And why in this format?
Well, you hit it. All those pieces are exactly right. And I think I decided that poetry doesn't sell greatly unless you're Mary Oliver or Billy Collins. And I mean, that's not necessarily true, but I'm a mom and I'm a farmer and I don't get out to readings a lot, but I hope to do some more. But nobody's going to, I don't want to say it that way, that nobody's going to buy my poetry, but I'm not going to sell a lot. And so I thought, if I do it in a way that I'm in control of what's happening, I'm in control, I can choose my cover art, I can create it, I have some publishing experience, I can bring that to what I'm doing. I just decided to do it that way, and then it's easier. I don't have to have a run of 500 books that are going to languish somewhere and not get sold. This is one of those publish on demand. You know, they print on demand things, so I can buy a rack of 50 and then sell them by myself as I go, and that's all I need right now. But yeah, I wanted it in physical form. Partly because it feels a little elusive out there in the computer.
That's true.
And
it does.
I wanted it in a book.
There's something to be said for holding your work in your hands and knowing that after you're gone, that even if a website crashes, that if people move off of Facebook back to MySpace or wherever they go, that will still always be there.
Yeah. And my mom told me I had to. My mom said it's time now, so
well, there you go. It is time. Yeah. Now, tell me about Goldfinch Farm, because that is, well, not necessarily the strictest level of art. What you've created there is a cultural movement and absolutely an artistic inspiration. And you said yourself that a lot of the inspiration for your poetry comes from your experiences on the farm.
Oh, I love the way you said that. Yeah, it's a little community-supported farm, so it's like a subscription. People come in the spring, and they buy shares in the farm, and then they come to our farm, or else we have a couple pickup sites once a week for about 22, 23 weeks during the summer and fall seasons, and pick up their vegetables. We're not certified organic, but we grow organically in case we would want to get certified. It's just very costly and paperwork full to be certified. So at this point, we're not. But yeah, we want to do right by the earth. I love that you call it an artistic process, because it is that, besides being very hard work.
Well, absolutely. But to create a work of art, you need to have a vision. You need to, go through the process of trial and error and experimentation, and thinking about how are people going to see this? What kind of legacy is this going to leave? And how am I going to get my view across in my work so that when people see this, they can see me as I choose to put myself forth in the universe.
I love it.
And I think, that you can apply those same principles absolutely to the farm. I mean, I was on the website, and it's just absolutely cool.
Great. Oh, I'm glad.
The stuff that you are doing there. So I'm hoping that you get just massive crops and 8 million people that are going to be all eating delicious organic vegetables.
I love
this summer.
Oh, thank you for that. It feels like a blessing. I'll carry that home.
Good. Very nice. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. And I cannot wait to read the book. Yeah. I want to see how The Mockingbird does as an editor.
I'll let you know.
I'll see if he's available for hire. I'll have to get him for the next book.
Yeah, he's ready.
Nice. Thank you.
Thank you, Carla. Good to meet you.
You too.
Hello, my name is Jess Angel, also known as Jessica Schroy. I'm going to read a poem, about 3 poems. This one is called Why Does God Have to Take You Away? It's about one of my friends who was going through a lot at the time, and she had cancer. So here it goes. Why does God have to take you away? Doesn't he see me crying from so far away? As the angel falls down, it is you that has fallen, down, down, down into the ground. She sees herself looking back at her own reflection in the pond, wondering why God has taken her away. She seemed fine. To the angel that has fallen, who is so full of life, why did this happen? Who had wished she never had cancer and hopes never to. And I wrote that about 10 years ago. The next poem is called A Garden That Lies Beneath the Hell of Paradise. It's about an old friend of mine. She sits and waits, waiting, wandering, wanting, her smile behind the mask of her pain, hurting, aching, hating, her cries behind her toughness. She can't heal the pain inside from her that lies were told. The last poem, which is called The Blessed Child Walks Among the Gates of Hell, I just wrote it for inspiration. It just kind of came for spur of the moment. So here it goes. Trying to pass through heaven, but she can't because her soul is trapped. Walking among these ashes, she sees herself staring back at me as she walks along the path slowly. She sees her whole past in front of her, running, run, run, faster. She goes for she can't face her past, so she's running so fast and hard, yet scared out of breath trying to get out of the gates of hell. She reaches at the end of the gate, and she sees this beautiful angel at the end of the gate. The angel puts out her hand in front of her. The blessed child is scared and crying with sadness, feeling empty and alone. The angel takes the blessed child's hand and helps her through the gate, for the blessed child is free and happy and at peace. Since her soul could not rest, she is free with the angels and through the gates of heaven. Who is the blessed child, and who may be the angel?
We're here with one of the undiscovered voices of York County that I just absolutely fell in love with as soon as a friend of hers recommended her to me. Her name's Jess Angel, and not only is she a poet, she's also a pretty exotic, fabulous model and actress, and does just about everything under the sun. So I decided we had to have her on the show and find out all about all these different things that she's doing. So now, which came first for you? Did you start writing? Did you start performing? Did you start modeling?
Probably poetry came first.
Nice. How long have you been writing?
Since I was 12.
12.
Yeah.
What made you get started at such a young age?
Sometimes I would like burst of the moment, I'll just start writing. I'm like, oh, I need to write, like just get inspiration. And when I grew up, I had a very rough life. So poetry for me, it was more like my therapy out. Like, so.
You see that a lot.
Yeah.
And then, so what came next from there? All the different things that you're involved in.
Probably Modeling, I started when I was 16. I got signed by an agency and then just kind of took off from there, featured in numerous magazines, filmed, worked with actors, featured on MTV, and then
Let's tell our
modeling and
viewers
acting
some of the magazines, because it's cool ones.
Yeah,
you were in
cool
cool ones.
Bazaar, I was featured in Bazaar. I was featured in a music video for Kitty. You can check it out on YouTube.
I love Kitty.
Sorrow, I Know, in the beginning, making out with the gentleman. So, modeling, acting, just kind of, I started out with those two. It's something I always wanted to do when I was younger, and I was like, I want to do modeling, acting, writing. So I started out young, and I'm still, doing that. So.
And how did you, because I think that is very common, that there's a lot of young artists out there, young creative types that want to get into the industry, and they just have no idea how to even get started. What advice would you give them?
To start out when you're young, and don't be afraid to mess up in life. So that's what I would give them.
Don't be afraid to mess up. That's good advice. And now, how did you go about finding, how did you start putting yourself out there when you decided, okay, I want to get it signed by an agency?
I actually just promoted a lot. I would go to meet and greets, just put myself out there and be like, hey,
It's all about the networking. We've had several artists that have said that, that it is an artist's life is driven by personality.
Yeah.
And that you need to just be willing to put yourself out there, and you'd be surprised what happens.
Exactly.
So now I noticed that a lot of your poems, you tend to write about very specific events. And like you said, it's therapeutic. It works through it for you. What makes something an event that you just need to write about it? What makes you inspired when you feel like writing?
It can be a situation or something tragic that happened in my life, and I'll write about it. I won't say anybody's names. I'll just kind of
names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Just kind of, go from there, or it can just be, I don't know, just get it's a burst of moment where I just wouldn't have to write and stop what I'm doing. And sometimes it could be at an event, or I could be just sitting there, talking to somebody, or, whatever.
Wow. So now, where do you see Jess Angel going? What are Jess Angel's dreams?
I want to open up a modeling school someday for young for young models who I was put down a few times because either wasn't tall enough or down to your eye color. Mm-hmm. You'd be very surprised. So I wanted to let them know that, hey, I want to help them out. It doesn't matter to me, about what they look like or eye color or their hair. I just want to try to help them get where I'm at, because, the modeling industry is tough out there. So.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think most of the creative industries are, they can be very competitive. They can be very tough. How do you keep from losing yourself in that? Because you have such a positive, gentle, very spiritual and natural attitude, which you don't see in a lot of people out there in such a competitive industry. How do you keep true to you?
Just stay focused and be positive. And I don't work with a lot of models. I try to stay to myself, because a lot of them are competitive and they try to compete with you. So I just stay to myself.
Right.
And
so for you, do you still use poetry as that outlet, just like you did when you were younger?
Yes.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your poetry and your words and some of those incredible stories with us. I always say that poetry is the voice. It's the person having the courage to be the voice for the voiceless. That we all have felt the same emotions. We all have had these same experiences, but we still, for some reason, all think that we are alone in them. And it takes someone with the courage to step up and say, I felt this too, so that other people can be reached by it. So thank you for doing that, for having the courage to do that.
Thank you for having me.
Hi there, this is 14 Years, and it's off my album, The Passion Leaks. You can find it on iTunes and possibly on my Facebook band page. Here you go. Oh, yeah, yeah. packed my bags and took my things. Never mind to keep the ring. In a rage I crashed down the stairs. Cloudy mind, the day was clear. 14 years are gone too soon. How'd you get so beautiful? Oh, 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 yeah, yeah. I'm stepping out to Garfield Square. I need to get away from here. Hailed a cab, strode down the street. Won't you take me as far as the eye can see? Oh, 14 years have gone too soon. How'd you get so beautiful? Oh, 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 yeah. Oh, 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 yeah, yeah. I crawled back to happiness since I crept away from my loneliness. I saw you at the mall today, and things have changed since you moved away. Oh, 14 years have gone too soon. Yeah, 14 years have gone too soon. How'd you get so beautiful? Oh, 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 yeah. This song is called Shame. It's off my album, A Complete Guide Through Heartbreak. And it's the portion of the album that talks about reconciliation. Here it is, Shame. Shame, the way we fall in love when glowing eyes reflect a beautiful heart, and passion seem to parallel. Don't mean we'll ever part. Oh, it's a shame. Oh, yeah. Blessed are those who fall in love, and strong are those who stay in love. Through wars and battles, stay on their saddles. They fight to love again. Oh, they're so strong. Oh, yeah. Falling in and out again. A sunset on these trains. Oh, why can't we be friends? Oh, it's a shame. Oh, it's a shame. It's such a shame. Okay, so this song doesn't have a title yet, but it's I wrote it a few years ago, and I'm hoping to record it for an album I'm going to release hopefully this weekend. So look out for it. It's on my Facebook page, facebook.com/Soji Music. Here it is. got stung before the storm came rolling on in. Try again, she said, if it's fate, then it's meant to be, to be. Oh, oh, I don't mind if you wanna share your dreams with me. You know I don't mind if you wanna share your dreams, share your dreams with me. Don't let go, just let me change the scene. Nice night to be out, grow old from being green, from being green. Yeah. Baby, I don't mind now if you wanna share your dreams with me. No, I don't mind now if you wanna share your dreams, share your dreams with me, with me, with me. Share your dreams with me. You know I sold a piece of my soul, and I'm shipping it out. Got dropped on the side of the road. Can you hear me now? Can you see me now? Baby, I don't mind it if you wanna share your dreams with me. Oh, baby, I don't mind now if you wanna stand right next to me. Oh, I don't mind if you wanna spend this life with me, with me.
How amazing was that? I mean, the studio audience erupted. Ah, I got you. I got you in the studio. I got you in the studio.
How are you doing?
I'm geeked, which is what happens every single time I get to hear you play.
Thank you for saying that. I appreciate that.
Aw. Now, we did a segment, an outdoor segment on you when you did your last album. Not your first album, but your most recent one, which was called The Singles, which was an incredible collection of reflective love and relationship songs. And now already, just a handful of months later, we've got a new CD getting ready to drop.
Well, I mean, I've been writing songs while I was recording that last album.
Right.
I was writing songs, and a lot of these songs that I'm actually recording for this new album are older songs that I don't play out often. And I feel like I owe it to myself or to those songs to give them life, so some new life to them. And that's a time-consuming project this week.
This whole week, huh?
This week, yes.
Now, and you write all your own songs, own music, play yourself, do a lot of your own recording, your own layers. You are like a one-stop shop traveling Soji show.
Well, yes, but luckily for me, the last album, I had a lot of help from musicians in York. I had tons of help.
Awesome.
But this particular one, because I'm so picky, there were certain things about, previous albums that I'm so picky and I haven't had the chance, I would want to change something, and I'm like, that's someone else's artistic influence in this music. And this one is just all me. So
this is like returning to the roots of Soji.
You can call
Essential
it that.
Soji.
You can call it that, yes.
Nice.
Because I'm I'm not going to allow anything to just be, whatever it is that I'm feeling at the time. I want it to be right. I want it to be what is right for the song because, like I said, these songs they deserve it. They've been in the back pages for a while, so I'll do that to them.
So would you say your approach to music, that you tend to be that way? You have a little bit of a perfectionist?
I am. It's odd because when I record, I think recording is a really tedious process. And when I record, at some point, I'm like, you know what? Let's just do this. Let's just have it like this. I mean, the reason I have
I'm done.
so many artists on the last album was because it was, it's partly their baby too. So, whatever you put out, great. For this particular one, it's just like I have so much pressure on myself to have a certain sound for the music or for what I'm feeling at the time that I become a perfectionist because of that.
Right. Where do you go to find inspiration for what you want to try next? Are you listening to different artists or different types of music, or are you just playing the same songs and trying to play them in as many different ways as possible? Like, how do you mix it up?
That's a very good question. I've done a lot of those things. Initially, I was playing a lot of jazz. I was listening to a lot of jazz, listening to a lot of music from my country, from Nigeria, and listening to a lot of local artists. The problem is that I'll play it and I'll let that stuff influence me, or I'll listen to it and it still sounds predictable. So, and that's one thing jazz shouldn't sound like. But when I take it and I absorb it and I spit it out, sometimes it takes on a certain vibe that is predictable. So I feel like I really need to just, I don't know what's gonna spark it. I don't know what it is. I just feel like, that's the part of the artist that becomes work, where you experiment and you really kind of buckle down to hear something that you haven't heard before.
Now, how long have you been creating music and performing it?
And performing, I would say since I was 24, so like 5 years.
Oh, such a baby. I love it.
I don't feel like a baby, but all right.
You're like, I'm road tested.
Well,
you road tested. And where do you see yourself going? Like, where do you want your music to take you?
That's a question I ask myself every day. I don't want it to take me anywhere. I want it to take me wherever it takes me. There's no destination that I have in my mind right now. There was a time where I thought it'd be great to just write songs for people, or it'd be great to go around and play shows. And I don't have a destination in mind. I think it makes it a little difficult to stay focused, but it gives me the freedom to do whatever it is I feel like without feeling like I'm pressured to go to one side of the art. So right now I'm just I'm just enjoying the ride, and if it tells me to take a left here or take a right here or take a left there, that's what I'm doing. I'm just enjoying playing music and writing.
Wow. So now, if people that are just obsessive Soji fans, where can they find you and hear you?
Well, there's always my Facebook band page. That's facebook.com/Soji Music. That's SOJ Music. So I put, I post a lot of, I think what's cool about that is that, if I'm one day just a song pops in my head, I'm not going to sit on it for a while and say, let me polish it to make it sound the way I want it to sound. I'm just going to take the raw song and the lyrics and play it. I think it's very funny because, my last album, I had all these songs that I just come up with, and I record it and put it on YouTube, and then posted it on my Facebook.
Right.
And then when the recording came out, the song sounded completely different.
Totally different.
So it's cool to see that evolution from, July, whatever, when I wrote
Right.
it, versus, what it sounds like after I've, really pulled that feeling together and said, this is how I want to express this song. And I love that, that difference and that evolution.
Well, I know I will be checking Soji Music on Facebook to find out when the new album is going to be ready and available for digital download, because we're going straight E format with this one.
Yes, we are.
Which is super cool. You're very progressive. You are the music of the future. So, I mean, I'm ready and excited about the new CD.
I'm excited too.
I will continue stalking open mics, hoping that the spirit moves you so that you will come out and play for me.
I'll play for you if you show up. No problem.
It's a deal.
All right.
All right, give me 5.
5?
So,
See ya. Thank you. Thanks
you.
for having me.
About 12 years ago, spending some time down with friends. Some folks might know the Panther family that moved from York down to Bisbee, Arizona. And I was down there hanging out with them right along the Mexican border. And when you're traveling out there and hiking through the desert, a lot of times you'll see old backpacks and kids' shoes and just things that people left behind as they were trying to make their way across the border. And whatever you think about the whole immigration issue, when you see a pair of kids' shoes out there or stuff that people had to leave while they were running scared to death, it definitely inspires a little empathy for them. At least it did for me. So this is a song called Madre Cry For Me. These streets have nothing left for me. Take my pesos and my family 200 miles of rock and desert sea to Tucson City. Gave a man nearly everything I had when he dropped us near Nogales. The weather was bad, I looked down to see my children were sad to leave Sonora. Oh, Madre, cry for me. It's just human nature, the need to be free. Is it such an offense to want a better life for my family? Oh, Madre, cry for me. I've gotta follow dreams of how life could be. No, it's just a fence between you and me and my dignity. My lovely wife and children in my hands, we crossed the border to your free land behind the mesquite that cut us when we ran to find some shelter. The darkness gave and up rose the sun. By early in the morn it was 101. When the water was gone, I decided to run to save my children. Oh, Madre, cry for me. It's just human nature, the need to be free. Is it such an offense to want a better life for my family? Oh, Madre, cry for me. I gotta follow dreams of how life could be. You know it's just a fence between you and me and my dignity. I cried and cried while the miles went by. Everywhere I looked it was nothing but dry. I prayed that God would take me back to the start of my family. I came upon a road, it was almost dark. With no other sound, I heard the coyotes bark. I knew that by now my chances were stark to find some water. Oh, Madre, cry for me. It's just human nature, the need to be free. Is it such an offense to want a better life for my family? Oh, Madre, cry for me. I've gotta follow dreams of how life could be. You know it's just a fence between you and me and my dignity. I dropped to my knees and prayed to the stars. Just about that time I heard a distant car. I crouched in fear, wondering if they are La Emigra. A shot rang out The lights were all around. Get out of the bushes, get on the ground. They told me my story, but I wouldn't hear the sound of my pleadings. Oh, Madre, cry for me. It's just human nature, the need to be free. Is it such an offense to want a better life for my family? Oh, Madre, cry for me. I gotta follow dreams of how life could be. You know, it's just a fence between you and me and my dignity. They took me away, put me in a cell, leaving me all alone with no one to tell the story of my family's hell out in the desert. Someone finally asked, what are you shouting about? I told them my story, they had to let me out. They told me they'd find them, but I had my doubts of their sincerity. Oh, Madre, cry for me. It's just human nature, the need to be free. Is it such an offense to want a better life for my family? Oh, Madre, cry for me. I've gotta follow dreams of how life could be. You know, it's just a fence between you and me and my dignity. They put me on a bus back to Mexico. I never had a trip where the time went so slow, counting the minutes and hours till I know where is my family. I got to my village, but nobody knew of my family's fate or what we went through to try and make a dream come true among your wealthy. Oh, Madre, cry for me. It's just human nature, the need to be free. Is it such an offense to want a better life for my family? Oh, Madre, cry for me. I've gotta follow dreams of how life could be. You know, it's just a fence. Is one I wrote for my dad a long time ago, and it's about working all your life and then retiring and then still having hardly any money to live on. And I think some people out there might be able to relate to that. Working 40 years for the same damn company. Promise me riches when I am gray. Meanwhile, I live life as a drone on the edge of poverty. Stressed to death to make that check last one more day. And I'm wondering where my life is going. In a flash, I see it passing by. And I'm wondering where my soul went wrong. Nothing left of life but the bitter question why. Mom said, boy, it's time, go and make your living. Go and get you a wife and a steady job. Now I've given all I had worth giving. Clench my fist 'cause I feel like I've been robbed. And I'm wondering where my life is going. In a flash, I see it passing by. And I'm wondering where my soul went wrong. Nothing left of life but the bitter tears I cry. second check at the end of each month won't ease my pain, while regrets of a lifetime eat me alive. You got nothing left here for me to lose or to gain. You think I'm wrong? Check the scores on the other side. 'Cause I'm not wondering where my life is going. I'm looking forward, leaving you behind. And I'm not wondering where my soul will go, 'cause I've left your world, and it's a bittersweet goodbye. Thank you.
Ooh, I'm excited, and you don't know why yet, but you will. It's because I have a huge, massive local celebrity who is on the show with us. You thought he was just an incredible musician, and he totally rocks. Crazy cool. But he's also here in his prim and proper business suit because he is the voice of York City. Michael Helfrich, City Councilman.
Wow, I feel like you just gave me a promotion there somewhere.
Are you kidding? I mean, that's pretty huge, especially considering that you had the most political excitement behind your election that I think any politician has had in the history of York.
I think that's pretty close to win a write-in campaign. Yep. To be elected without your name even being on the ballot, that felt pretty good.
And that's huge. If people aren't aware of that, you were a write-in candidate. Like, you actually got people to write your name. The grassroots community mobilization. You really are the embodiment that the individual's voice matters.
Well, thank you. And the neat thing also was that I only won by 6 votes. So it also shows that everybody voting counts. You know, they say that all the time, that your vote counts. This is one time that it actually proved it.
Absolutely. And regardless of who you're voting for, I think that is probably the most inspirational story to tell people, to say, involve yourself in the political process. If you care about your city, go to a city council meeting. Go out there and become a city council person. You know, be willing to step up. Don't just sit at home and complain. Get out there and try to make change.
And we have all sorts of boards and authorities that we need people, that we're short of appointees. So there's lots of work to do, and I'd love to see people down at city councils.
Now, one of the fabulous ideas that city council approved that I thought was so necessary was busking, which you were absolutely instrumental in advocating for that.
Yeah, well, that's the only real. See, council, a lot of times they don't draft legislation. Most of the time they just approve or disapprove legislation coming to us from the mayor's office. But in this case, I felt it was important, so I drafted that legislation, created it, and and it's not just busking, which is key, because I'm hoping that soon, it's warm enough now, folks, artists of all types, sculptors, poets, everybody is invited now to come out onto the streets of York and perform. And as long as you are selling less than 5 items or less, you can show your work. So I went out and I talked to the art galleries and I said, well, hey, I understand, you guys are paying overhead.
Right.
So do you mind if I ask people to come out on the street? And they're like, no, let's, as long as they're not filling the whole street.
Right.
Or if we get 100 of them and each one has 5 items, that would be great. Because art just builds.
A culture mall.
Art just builds on itself.
Right.
There's not really a huge competition in it. It's more of a ball rolling.
It's a community. Yeah. I think as poet laureate, I was wary at first about the idea of being a creative person in a governmental position. I didn't know if the two were going to be able to combine, where I'd really be able to benefit both communities. And what I have seen from my experience is that it's great to be an artist, but if you can be an artist with a voice in the government, with a voice to other commercial communities, you can be heard, your art can be heard. And if you are a person in the government, you need to be in touch with the people that you're governing. You need to be in touch with the city and the people that are really going on here. And I think York is really becoming this incredible art destination, or we're certainly trying to.
Oh, absolutely.
So, and you are the city councilman who marries the two, because you're not just a city councilman, you're also the lower Susquehanna river keeper.
Yes.
Which, now tell our audience, because I know not all of them know exactly what that's about.
In case you don't know, I think I mentioned city council pays $10,000. So most of us are either retired or we have full-time day jobs. And my full-time job is as the lower Susquehanna river keeper. So I'm an advocate for the waterways and the communities the whole way from Sunbury, Pennsylvania down to the Chesapeake Bay.
And now, how did you become so involved in the arts community? Is it just from your love of your own writing and performing that you were drawn to those people, or? Because that's a huge part of the we love Michael Helfrich. I mean, the artists are behind Michael Helfrich.
Well, thank you. I don't really know what to say other than what I do is I try to express my soul through what I do, and right now it's governing. I try to govern with my soul, and when I see people performing with their soul, or painting with their soul, or speaking with their soul, I'm attracted to that.
As a busker, aka street performer, for people not familiar with busking as a vocabulary word, you can be out there from when to when?
I think it's 9 to 11. It might be 9 to 10.
And you can bring your non-massively plugged in, super loud.
Yes, acoustic music. And the key to this being successful is definitely respect. Right. So, there are rules. Don't block the ways so that wheelchairs can't get through. Right. Don't be near the corners. Don't be in front of people's businesses. Ask politely, hey, do you mind if I'm playing out in front of your business? Right. Some people will absolutely want you there because you're drawing people towards their business. Right. Other people might be working right inside that window and not want you there. Right. So respect is the key to this being successful. Not to mention the rest of the things going on in the city.
Right. And sell your 5 items
or less. And what that means is if you're an artist and you want to just display 5 pieces of art and have another 5 in your portfolio back here, that's fine. We just can't have one person. Have one person, yeah. And by the way, everything has to be personally made. They have to be unique items from yourself. So we're not looking for the Watchman, the Rolejo,
right?
Not the Rolex, but the Rolejo,
right?
And stuff like that. This is specifically about promoting the creativity of folks here in York and people that are visiting York.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the show, and thank you on behalf of the art community for being a voice for the people of the city. What you do is beautiful.
Thank you, and keep telling me what you need.
We will. I'll be on your Facebook.
All right. Oh, yeah, be on my Facebook, because it's a community forum for all sorts of things, political, arts, anything like that.
Nice.
Thank you.
Good job. Today was one of the most special episodes of Culture in Maine that I've gotten to film. Thank you so much to our artists. The personal stories behind Jess Angel's poems are fabulous. The inspiration and the beautiful space created by Beth Weaver-Kreider with her poetry tree, with Goldfinch Farms, with her dynamic delivery of her work inspired by the natural world. Every time I hear Soji, he blows me away even more. I can't wait for that new CD. And Michael Helfrich, a politician that can actually give you faith in the political process. We're pretty lucky with what we have here in York. If you love what you see on Culture in Maine, or if you don't and want to give us suggestions, make sure to find us, Culture in Maine, right on WRCT.tv, Channel 18, show profiles, Culture in Maine, or check us out on Facebook and Twitter. Just look up Culture in Maine, and there we are. Thank you for joining us on the Corner of Culture in Maine, and have a wonderful, blessed week.